It's a palindromic name.
That's why I chose
Forward, backwards, just like kayak.
it. Well, I mean, it was what my parents were going to name me, but...
They were going to
like,
name you kayak,
yeah,
and then
no.
they had a terrible
Other one.
river
Other
accident.
one.
And they're like, never again.
We were
Hannah.
a canoe family.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, that explains it. Cool. So what we typically do is, and normally we're just doing one-on-ones, but we're here together. I'm on a tour where I meet up with folks that like to do interviews like this in their own community. And so we're experimenting doing like just the three of us kind of talking it out.
Gotcha.
So typically though, we interview people about something that they think is true, and we ask questions that explore how they support their confidence that it's true. Does that make sense?
Sure.
And it
Okay.
could be anything. It could be anything at all. Really, any and all subjects are open.
Well, I've got a
Even subjects themselves.
relevant but spicy one.
Cool. I like-
That's what he wants.
I usually do. Depends. Depends on how good it is. I guess I'm picky about my level of spice and what the flavor of spice. But yes, go
Well,
ahead.
you're all about the hot sauce too, like
do.
in real life. So
Yeah, I bring the sriracha with me everywhere.
The debate about trans women playing sports
Okay.
is entirely focused on chromosomes and an oversimplification of chromosomes. However, what is missed is how many of those effects are not immediate, but rather secondary due to patriarchy. Basically, women being disadvantaged due to patriarchy rather than biology.
So the issue is really about patriarchy and not about biology and chromosomes.
Well, it's more that people look at differences, and I'm a women's sports fan, and there are some differences that I'm willing to talk about. They look at those differences and attribute them entirely to biology, where I'm saying that there are major causal things that are patriarchy, that are sociological, that without the ability to control for those, which we can't, we do not have a way of controlling for those right now, there's not a way to really state with any kind of confidence what biological differences actually are.
What is the appropriate amount? Like if we had a pie chart, what would your preference be as far as what it's focused on? Like the most.
For us to question.
Yeah.
Oh, sure.
You know what I mean? Like what is the appropriate amount?
I think probably a good place to start, at least, would be what some of those sociological effects are, or sociological causes are, rather. Does that make sense?
Okay. I guess I'm thinking more broadly, like
Sure.
what should it be focused on?
When you say it, do you mean kind of the broader conversation?
The conversation,
Yeah,
yeah.
the debate that you're saying about trans women playing sports. It sounds like you're saying that the debate is focused too much on biology and not enough about the sociology about it. Would that be accurate?
Sort of. Because, yes, in terms of what that means kind of plainly, but more it's about how those sociological effects are ignored, rather than the level at which they are considered. I'm saying that a lot of them are not considered at all. They're not acknowledged.
Okay.
So it's more of a sort of a binary thing or Boolean thing rather than any kind of level issue. Does that make sense?
I think so. If I had a checklist of, a checklist that would help me determine whether or not it has been acknowledged, what would be on that list?
I mean, probably a good place to start would be if you did some informed, educated searching of the internet, or of major publications, would you find acknowledgments of those across multiple stories in our mostly in our media, whether we're talking about fictional or non-fictional? Does that make sense? Basically, how much are they talked about?
Yeah.
And by folks who have reach outside of simply, the folks sitting there listening to them.
And you're saying it's not focused enough on the societal issues such as patriarchy?
Well, I mean, I'm focusing on patriarchy as these are about gendered issues.
And I guess what we might be trying to ask is how do we decide how much of it should be focused on what?
Right. So what I'm saying is that that's not really what I'm aiming for. I'm not aiming for a level. I'm aiming for at all.
Okay.
So what I'm saying is I want to introduce the topic and without saying any kind of prescriptive, and this is the level at which we should consider them. It goes back to what I was saying earlier about because we have no way to control for these, because they're not acknowledged, we don't know what the sort of comparative effects are. And so I can't really say to what extent we should focus on one versus the other.
If we did focus on that more or enough to your satisfaction,
Sure.
What changes do you think we would see?
Well, I think probably first off would be an understanding that while the Republicans and the right in here have taken things like Title IX and the defense of women's rights and turned it against trans people. One of the issues there is that, of course, the original intent of Title IX is equal supply of support. I lost my thread there, sorry. Would you repeat the question?
Sure. If we did focus, if the debate focused to your satisfaction on the amount of, say, patriarchy, what changes would we see?
Gotcha. Okay. So what I would hope for is that the focus at least shifts to include modifying our system to disadvantage women less, to actually to more evenly supply resources and support towards girls and women playing sports.
And what would that look like?
Yeah, like think of a policy change.
Sure. So maybe not as a policy change, but one might be basically an evening of sociological expectations, gendered expectations around visible muscle. Does that make sense?
So if other people have different expectations of physical muscle, then that would be a change.
Basically.
If they had different expectations.
So specifically, if the expectations around visible muscle were much less attached to gender. Because when we look at one of the major things that people are always focusing on is, well, men are so much stronger than women because of the X chromosome. And it's like, okay, but think about how women are encouraged to be, thin and petite, and men are encouraged to be swole. We can't look at that difference and say, yes, that's the X chromosome. So what I'm saying is, in order to make that comparison in any kind of fairness, you have to have a relatively even gendered expectation, or at least gendered allowance of that kind of physical musculature.
And if that happened, if we were to get there, what would we see differently than we do now?
Well, I mean, I think women less that women would be a lot stronger, and more that there would be more stronger women. Does that make sense?
Okay. If the debate focused more on social issues like patriarchy, we would have stronger women.
Yes.
Okay. How do we know that? How do you know that would happen?
I mean, I think that I guess it feels self-evidential, or at least, let me step back. I guess, do you contest that there is a gendered expectation around showing muscle?
In order to determine something about sports?
No, I'm talking about just general societal expectation around what does an attractive man look like versus what does an attractive woman look like.
And you're asking specifically, do people have gender-based expectations about muscle mass?
Yes, would you agree about that?
I would say in most contexts, yeah.
Say
Maybe
in most
not
contexts.
not in all contexts, but that's kind of a preference too, right?
Right, I would think it would be like, there's like a bell curve or spectrum, I would imagine,
Sure.
with overlap.
Yes.
I mean, like-
Oh, no, that's very true. And one of the key things that gets lost in this debate very often is people will point at examples. When the whole
Like super buff
buff
or,
women,
yeah.
et cetera, when the issue is populations. And so if you're looking at individuals under bell curves, that tells you very little, because you can almost always find some example of somewhere on the bell curve. You have to step back and look at broader social states. Losing my words on that one.
And I'm hearing also that the bell curve looks the way it does if we zoom out because of patriarchy.
Partially. That's the idea, is that not because of patriarchy, but rather that patriarchy has an influence.
It makes it more pronounced.
It makes it more pronounced.
Okay.
To what extent?
Yeah.
I'm saying we don't know.
Right. Okay.
If that were to happen, and it was the perfect balance for you in your mind, and things remain the same, what would be another explanation for what we're seeing?
I'm not quite sure I understand
Yeah,
the
that
question.
was...
And actually, really
Almost
quick, by any chance, do y'all have something to drink? I was looking for a water fountain.
I've got extra water.
That would be great.
Yeah.
Perfect. Ugh. We picked
you have
the
a
wobble.
container?
We picked the wobbliest table.
No, I got you.
Yeah, that's what we do. We like just listen to any particular topic and explore it.
Sure.
But we always just explore reasons and eventually drill down
This is
at
just water.
the how
Great. Thank you.
part.
I guess my question, to better phrase it, is
You said something about if it doesn't change.
we have this problem. You're saying that you have a solution.
No. I'm not saying
this
a
is
solution.
Not considered a strategy or a solution?
No. I mean, this is much more... This is not a strategy. This is sort of higher than that.
Is it an observation?
It's an observation.
Okay. So you're making... Okay, let's make the claim more clear for us. Is it you're observing that there is
The debate about trans women
right.
playing sports is focused too much on biology and not enough on...
I would say, at least in sort of the broader media handling, I would say exclusively on biology.
Okay. And I guess my question is, if we started to include other aspects and things remain the same as far as the problem goes, or then what would be another explanation, or what would be I guess you're saying that you're not, that would not be a solution? If if we were to not be exclusive about biology.
Do you mean if we were to not only focus on biology?
Right.
Gotcha.
And things didn't change, what would that mean?
Well, if, as you said, like nothing changed as far as differentials, and I'd really like to dive in a bit to what those differentials look like, because that is important.
Sure.
As someone who has been an athlete, not professional, but club, so competitive, I think there's important points there, but we can get back to that. Should we kind of correct these, or rather, not correct, but include these more social, patriarchal considerations? Should we solve them somehow? It's quite a thing. And we were to still see the same separation,
Right.
then we would have basically controlled for those effects. And then could go on and assess, okay, now we would know more about how biology was affecting things. What I'm saying right
So you're talking
now,
about like a test almost, or a way to test
in research, for any
Right.
kind of research, you have to control for external variables.
Yeah, and I'm saying, what if that test failed?
it. Yeah.
What would be another explanation for the state that we have?
So the idea is that I'm not talking about the test. I'm not talking about the test more broadly. What I'm talking about is controlling for the test. Does that make sense?
Like how?
Like controlling for external variables as we do tests around biological effects.
Okay.
I think I would need to have the test explained to me to know what that would entail.
Well, I mean, here's the thing, is that when we say the test, there isn't the test. Because when you boil it down, it's like, okay, what sport are we talking about? In basketball, height matters a hell of a lot.
That's one.
I think I looked and there are like 6 WNBA players that are shorter than me. I'm not a tall man or whatever, someone with XY chromosomes, but height matters for basketball. If you look at just track, well, speed matters. If you look at something like soccer, then it's I don't know what you got.
Right.
Someone can be a winner because they're 6'6" and get headers. Someone can be Leo Messi and be 5'7" and be the GOAT. Likewise, someone can be a fast sprinter and get breakaways, or someone can have really fine ball control and be able to get through defense. Those are both great ways of being a soccer player. Anyway, I'm a huge soccer fan, if that wasn't obvious.
You're just saying there's no test?
I'm saying there's no single test. Because we're not talking about any particular research as far as sort of the broader conversation. In order to have sort of informed tests, something more scientific, we would need to look at individual sports or something, or maybe
Is
families
there one
of sports.
test for basketball?
So, basketball is a bit of a special case. In that, as far as height goes, there are massive biological effects. We know that. I think those are still overestimated in that it turns out that if you have less nutrition during your growing years, you will gain less height. When do girls start dieting? Are not forced to diet, but are heavily encouraged to diet, and very often develop eating disorders. Does that stunt their height? Almost certainly, but again, to what extent, we don't know without controlling for that, and which we're not able to do right now.
Maybe I hate to dwell on what the claim is so much. I am trying to focus
Sure.
more on how and stuff. I just want to be. I sometimes it's clear for me to understand if I focus on somebody who believes the opposite of you.
Sure.
So imagine somebody comes here and they believe the opposite of you. I'll go on a limb. I imagine they would just say there should be two different NBA and WNBA or something
Sure.
like that. Is that so? That would you say that you're opposed?
No, what
that
I'm
person?
saying, it's very specifically about
Yeah.
trans women playing women's sports. So it's not about
okay.
I mean,
So you in different leagues would be fine.
yes.
Okay. Okay.
I'm thinking that that person would say we should only focus on biological differences.
Or
is that
they,
it?
they might not say that, but that's what they would do. Do you know what I mean?
The person that believes opposite of you, I'm guessing that's what a claim that they would make.
Sort of. I think they sort of make that
Or they're
as
saying-
an
or-
incoming
Maybe what you're
assumption. Basically, it's not that they would say, no, we shouldn't consider those. It's that they haven't and would refuse to. Does that make sense?
Yes.
I see. So WNBA and NBA can both still exist. And Hannah, what you're talking about is the inclusivity of like trans in one or either of the teams.
Right. And it's
That's what
important
you're saying.
here that
Okay.
when we talk about height, I didn't finish something here, which makes basketball, like I said, sort of a its own case, because as I kind of said, when you look at case by case, sport by sport, things are gonna be different.
Mhm.
In basketball, I want to draw a parallel to wrestling, because wrestling, the divisions are by weight, and weight is very much genetic,
Mhm.
or has heavy genetic influences. And so, as someone that is 5'7" and actually loves playing some basketball,
Mhm.
I would just get destroyed. But if I could play with a bunch of other people that were, I don't know, under 6 foot or something like that, I could play basketball. So what I'm saying there is more about like when you have something that is very, very genetic, when you have something that is not in any way really mutable, at least practically, then it makes more sense to have leagues that are divided by that rather than by gender. Does that make sense? And this is why I'm kind of saying that I think, as far as what I'm aiming at, basketball is enough over here. I'm not saying like, oh, we shouldn't talk about that, just that it's not really what I want to focus on.
Yeah. It sounds like you're saying. It sounds like you're saying you prefer the weight class categories rather than the gender categories.
Yes, I would.
And because of the nature of wrestling and how weight plays into the advantages and disadvantages of people.
Exactly.
And it is the goal like fairness?
Basically.
Okay. So what makes
I mean, to be also very clear, sports are never fair.
Mhm.
Like, that's
That's
the way it is.
Mhm.
Never perfectly fair. You just kind of want to bound things, you know?
You want to make it as fair as you can.
Yes, and specifically you want, as much as possible, advantages to be based on skill. Or, in some cases, like weightlifting on some particular physical aspect. However, even in cases like weightlifting, which people think, yes, that's strength, it's like, there's a lot of skill there that people don't think about. Anyway.
If this person over here says, so I do this.
Mo.
This is Mo.
No, my favorite.
That's our
movie.
outsider. If Moana's like, I don't know where to put her.
That's fine.
Now I lost my train of thought completely.
If you're saying categorizing by weight, or whatever the sport makes sense to categorize it by for fairness, what would
perfect.
what would Bob Ross say if Bob believed the opposite? It's kind of what you were trying to ask, right?
Yeah, although I was going to take it into a direction of essentially asking a question about how we know that biological gender is not a category like weight is.
Again, what I'm saying is that we don't know that.
Important enough to include or whatever.
Sure. What I'm saying is that we don't know that. What I'm saying is again focusing on we have not yet. People want to assert something as true when we have not controlled for a lot of variables. What I'm saying is, first let's control for those variables, and then we can have this discussion.
I see.
And the way that we control for those variables, what would be the best way?
Abolish the patriarchy.
Okay. And if we did that, if we did abolish the patriarchy, and things remain the same, what would that mean?
So, firstly, I want to say, I want to make a bold claim that things would not remain the same. But it probably would be true that the gap between those bell curves might not fully overlap. Testosterone does have effects around strength. People ignore the very real research that came out very recently showing that trans women, having been on HRT for, I think 2 years was the study, or at least 2 years, were actually disadvantaged as far as cardiopulmonary and some other major aspects of athleticism. Because, in part, when people look at differences there, they are very much focusing on, well, here's men and here's women. When the people in that research that they are pointing at, in the men category, there were literally no trans women. But because they see trans women as just plain old men, they lump them in there. And then assert trans women's advantage based on that research, which did not include trans women. Does that make sense?
Yes. We're lumping in trans women into the men's side when we shouldn't necessarily.
Basically. And again, what's going on here is making claims without acknowledging confounding variables.
You said that you know that it would not remain the same. It's a hypothetical question, like, let's say if it did remain the same.
Sure.
Can you think of any other explanations as to why it is the way it is, if it's not because of that?
Please don't take this as an insult, but I see that as a nonsense question. I think that that it has some effects is as self-evident as it could be, looking again at those sociological pressures, and especially evidence around, when a woman does disregard those and decide that she wants to get swole, well, she gets a lot stronger, it turns out. I think one of the places you can get an idea of how much this can affect things is if you look at women's sports coverage. And you look at the retired women's players who are up there, giving their opinions in something sleeveless. You will see muscle, not bodybuilder, or not even bodybuilder, but, people doing bodybuilding for appearance. but functional muscle that is distinctly more swole, larger,
Right.
something like that. So I think that there are enough variables from patriarchy that the idea that it would remain completely the same, I don't know, is the short answer, because I don't think that that is
Yeah.
at
No,
all
that's fine.
possible.
That's
But
fine.
I do want to acknowledge that those bell curves wouldn't suddenly, like, perfectly overlap.
Uh-huh.
To what extent, again, that's the whole issue that I'm pointing at is we don't know.
What do you expect would happen?
Well, I think that the bell curve around just kind of strength, which of course, what is strength? I don't know. That depends on a lot of what we're talking about. But I think those bell curves would move closer together. Testosterone does give an advantage, and so they would probably still be somewhat separated, even with the same sort of social feeling around that, which, absent patriarchy, it would probably not be, oh, we now have this equal expectation, but rather it would be a removal of those gendered expectations.
I have plenty of questions, but I just want to ask, how are you feeling right now?
Lovely.
Is it good?
Yeah.
Do you have any question for me before I ask more questions of you?
Not really, I don't think.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Just wanted to make you not feel like
Oh, sure.
an interrogation was taking place or there's
No.
a particular agenda. But my only agenda is my own curiosity.
Totally.
Okay. So it sounds like you're open to another question then. Olympic weightlifting.
Sure.
Is the world record for women's deadlift versus the world record men's deadlift the way it is because of patriarchy exclusively?
No.
Or, well, not exclusively. So it's part of it?
It's part of it.
Part of it.
It's probably
But not-
unlikely.
Am I way off in my question here?
Well, no,
I think I get it.
That's where I was going with the pie chart. How much?
Oh, yeah,
how
that's
much
a good...
is it, and how much should it be?
Okay, there you go.
Gotcha. Well, as I said, the solution for this is abolishing the patriarchy.
Oh, yes, if we did, how much would be left?
The idea, I'm saying I don't know.
I don't know.
We don't know. I'm saying we're not controlling for it, so we don't know.
So why make the claim that that's why it's the way it is?
I'm not saying that's why it is the way it is. I'm saying that that contributes to the way
How
it
do you
is.
know that it contributes to that?
Well, partially, I'll admit, it feels self-evident, as I've kind of said. From experience, I have been an athlete of some form or another, or was an athlete of some form or another for 25, 30 years. And so I have a lot of personal experience of seeing.
That's what Bob says.
Bob says that.
That he too has all sorts
Personal
of experience.
experience, and it's self-evident to Bob.
Sure. So what I'm
And
saying
I
is,
just want to know which one to listen to.
Right.
sure. So what I would ask Bob is it self-evident to you that patriarchy has no effect? That these specific influences have no effect? And again, it's one of those things where if he were to say, yes, that's what I assert, I would say, all right, well, there's no point in continuing this conversation because clearly we're just never going to
What if
agree.
Bob says it doesn't have no effect, but it's only a part of the pie, and just the fact that it's part of the pie is enough to maintain the patriarchy the way it is?
Sure. I mean,
I'm digging deep here.
Yeah,
That's what
absolutely,
they do.
absolutely.
You know?
So, I mean,
That's what Bob does.
the first thing that is
Bob would never
important
say
there,
this.
as far as I know. This is what I had.
He's got a happy little patriarchy here and a happy
This is-
little patriarchy.
this is like-
Maybe Moana.
This is like two of my favorite like
Little figures
people
there.
to see on a screen.
Oh no, we're lionizing the opposition. Damn it!
Sorry, would you repeat the question?
I so threw you off. That's my bad. Got my. Okay, so yeah, like if they said it's self-evident that part of the pie, at very least, are these immutable biological traits.
Sure.
And while patriarchy is part of it, part of the reason why we have these division classes, just the mere fact that it's any percentage of biological differences would be enough to keep this division in sports the way it is, at least for many sports, but maybe not all, like chess.
Sure.
Mix that
Sure.
or whatever. But when it comes to basketball per se, that would be their reason.
Sorry,
This table.
talk amongst.
Oh, you forgot. I think
No, it was going and it died. I don't know why.
I don't even know. You want to check mine?
No, it's going again.
It looks like it's
Oh,
not
good.
batteried.
Yeah.
Oh, gotcha.
That's intentional.
It's a constant. Yeah.
Yeah. I guess my
can check
question
mine, too.
would that would be, do you think that
Sweet.
do you think that the wealth of someone's family has an effect on their ability to be good at sports?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Though I think that the wealth. It would be like a pie chart sort of situation also. Like,
Right.
you know, somebody could be born with severe disabilities to a rich family, and then they would have like very little chance at that, but they have 100%
Right.
more chance at the Special Olympics
But again,
than I would.
Sure.
You know, or something like that.
But again and again, the thing is that people want to focus on individuals because that's easy to think about and it's easy to write about, when the actual important thing to consider is bell curves,
Right.
because we're talking about a population. We're not talking about, is this just in this case, in this specific person's case? So the important thing there is that for sports especially, you have, sorry, let me back up a little bit.
Okay.
One of the things I would ask with patriarchy is, are we separating the Y chromosome from all of the other chromosomes we have? Is that chromosome somehow the only one that we should divide sports by? Or are genes on other, and in that case, it's not even a single chromosome, it's the SRY gene on the Y chromosome. Like, that is what causes you to secrete testosterone during puberty. So, you know, there are currently soccer players, women's soccer players who have XY chromosomes, or double X, but have an SRY, or maybe I'm getting that backwards. Anyway, there are a variety. So, what I'm saying is that if we're going to say, but, you know, this chromosome does have this effect, my question is, okay, why are we not then dividing things with other genes? Would you, and I don't know, I don't have a specific example because, again, it varies so much sport to sport and we don't fully understand genes, how they interact. But if you look at, say, any sport, one of the questions that you might ask is, okay, what are the upper limits of this bell curve? Because if we're talking about professional sports, then we're like, all right, well, here's the bell curve of women. Where are the USWNT, the US women's national team? They're over here, right? All of them. And so if we're talking about women's sports, the pool of people who might play sports, of women that might play sports, is much smaller than that of men for multiple reasons. Some sociological encouragement of competition. Competition is very much linked to masculinity in our broader society. General encouragement to play sports beyond, say, high school. And in capitalism, the potential money that you might get if you continue to play sports and get to a professional level. The effect is that when you get professional, the players that teams might pick out of is much smaller for women. And the result is that when we're talking again about genes, we're talking about multiple genes. We're talking about the intersection of advantageous genes. The larger your pool, the more intersections there are there. And so, again, the question is, why is the Y chromosome and the single gene on the Y chromosome the only gene that matters? And the answer, to me, is patriarchy.
If Bob were to be asked that question, what would Bob say if you could use as much good faith interpretation of what you think? If you could steel man Bob,
Like, be as charitable as he can be.
yeah, what would Bob?
I mean, here's the thing. This is not me trying to be uncharitable. This is me looking at...
Hopefully you didn't feel like I was thinking
No.
you were going to be.
No.
Okay.
I don't.
I'll give you the benefit
I mean,
of the
here's the
doubt.
thing.
I believe
That
you
is
can do it.
something. That is something I try to do.
Yeah.
I try to understand
Yeah.
what other people are arguing
Right.
before I rebut in some way.
Right.
So what I want to point at then is the testimony in Congress relatively recently where not the DHS. I don't recall what department. Lord,
The sports department? I'll
the
believe you.
sports department. I don't.
Probably wouldn't know enough about it anyway.
I don't
Administration
recall.
of sports.
Yeah.
Something like that.
I don't recall
That's okay.
what position they were trying for. What I do recall is that someone asked, or he was asked, how would you classify intersex people?
Right.
And his answer was, well, it would all depend on their chromosomes. It's
Right.
either XX or it's XY. That's just the way it is. And his assistant sitting next to him, like,
Was like, yeah.
and so
What if
what
it's
I'm
neither of those? Or what if it's a completely different category than that?
right. What if it's XX except you had an SRY
Mhm.
and then you grew up being known as male?
Yeah, that's a tough question. Like, what do we do
Right.
when somebody wants to play a sport and they're in that situation? That's what I'm hearing you ask.
Basically, or more accurately here, it's that if I wanted to be as charitable, I think it would be incredibly charitable for me to be sitting across the table from someone and say, like, clearly you would say the same thing as someone undergoing a Senate confirmation hearing. You would be as educated and, informed as they would. That would be a compliment. And so what I'm saying is, even on that side of things, even someone in a position like that is still coming at it from a way that is straightforwardly wrong. And most importantly, follows a pattern of disregard for evidence, disregard for what science says, because they have predetermined what the answer must be with patriarchy.
Can I go back to something here that I got really interested?
Sure.
You said that we should be focusing more on bell curves rather than individuals.
Yes.
And it sounds like at the same time, your reasoning for your explanation of patriarchy being a big influence, you're basing that on your personal experience, right?
On my personal experience, on my years and years of being a fan of both women's and men's soccer.
Yours as an individual. Sounds like that's your reason.
As well as I read research. If I read a paper or if I read a story about, this new research paper says this thing, I go and read the research paper because in my experience, they twist things, they miss points, they do all sorts of there are all sorts of issues in how research is presented in popular media, and so I tend to go and read research. And so my opinion, even though I can't cite specific research sitting here at this picnic table, is partially based on that research as well as as self-experience.
How much do you think it is of your personal experience and the research? Like, we've been talking about pie charts.
Sure.
Yeah, well, sorry if it sounds pedantic, but no matter what the claim is, we ask people to quantify which of their reasons weighs on their confidence about whatever.
Yeah,
whatever is most. So we
Totally.
challenge people to think about,
yeah,
yeah, this one weighs way more. So is it like personal experience weighing more, or research papers weighing more to you?
I'm going to give you an answer you don't like.
You're gonna say
It depends on the question. It depends on the
What I
specific
like
question.
doesn't matter.
on this.
It's about what you.
On
what
this.
you. It's all about what you.
Patriarchy has a big influence on the way that they decide, because of biology, right? And
It has a large effect on that research.
And you're saying that that's true because of you're supporting that with your personal experience and research.
Yes.
So that's the question then.
Sure.
When you ask depends on the question, when we're asking what weighs more, your personal experience or the research, what would you say has more weight in your confidence about?
Right. When I say it depends on the question, what I'm saying is, let's say the question was cardiopulmonary. It was, let's say the question was like some kind of athletic skill. That would be self-experience. I don't know that I've read research into skill differences.
Okay. If we were to narrow it down to the weightlifting is just something easy because it's like a one movement thing in the Olympics. Does that count as a skill? Is that what you're talking about?
I'm saying, one thing I'm saying is that people look at something like weightlifting, like sprinting, and they say, yes, that is muscle. And it's like, and a hell of a lot of practice.
Right, for sure.
So what I'm saying is that there are some sort of subtopics, some individual subjects, like, for instance, cardiopulmonary, where I'm basing my opinion on research more. There are some, like skill differences, where I'm basing my opinion on personal experience more. That's what I mean by it depends on the question.
Why is personal experience a good reason to believe anything?
Well, partially because people like to look at the world, or like to look at a question and say, well, that can't be true because no research says it is. And the question I always want to ask next is, has there been research into that? Because one of the issues around transgender people in our society in general is that there are a lot of aspects that have not been studied. So, for lack of research to point at, what I've got is personal experience as well as conversations with thousands of other trans people at this point in my life talking about shared experience. So it's sort of this middle space between personal experience and research for the lack of research. Does that make sense?
Because there's no research, all you have to fall back on at that point is personal experience and shared stories.
Yes.
So why would that be a good reason at that point? If we only have one reason left, does that make that reason a good reason?
Because it's the only one left?
I'm not quite understanding the question.
Is the only remaining reason, does that make it a good reason?
More valuable.
Yeah. Or more sufficient.
Or should we pay attention to it more? Simply because it's the only available
could the only available reason we have still be a poor or insufficient reason?
When you say reason, do you mean like between self-experience and research?
Maybe reason's the bad word for this, but explanation or method to determine something. If we only have one reason left, is that what makes it a good reason?
So anytime someone says we only have one possible reason left, I want to say like,
have you thought about it hard enough?
Have you thought about it hard enough? Or more specifically, like, are you saying that we perfectly understand the rest of the world to know that there's only this one possible puzzle shape?
Sure.
So I'm saying that, okay, we might say, well, this is the only reason we can understand right now. That needs to be understood to be different from there cannot be another reason.
Or method.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I guess what my question is if there could be better methods that we don't know about yet.
And I'm sorry, what is methods here?
So the method that you're determining this is because of personal experience.
Gotcha.
And research.
Ways.
Sure. Yeah. Gotcha.
And if you said we don't have the method of research, and all we have left is personal experience, what effect does that have on the quality of the method if it's the only one that we know of, if there could be other ones?
So one of the major effects that has is it makes loud populations exert greater force than their size relative to the larger population. Kind of should. Does that make sense? So actually, I can give you an example. I am on a social media app that's targeted at originally lesbians, now queers more generally. And there were a number of trans women who were asserting very loudly that the slur tranny should only be used freely by trans women, because trans women have been the targets of it for the longest time.
Almost like the N-word kind of.
Very much, right, yes. Yeah. In that same idea of a white person,
the same way,
right? Yeah. A white person even mentioning that word, not.
It's hurtful when other people use it.
Yes.
When I use it, it's a release or a way to be playful.
Sure.
Right.
So these trans women were making broad assertions. They were claiming, basically, that they were speaking for trans women generally. And I disagreed with them, in no small part, because I'm like, is this the argument we need to be having? But what I did is I held a little poll, not a vote, but a poll, asking, hey, anonymously, how do you feel? Trans women only, please. And what I found was that about 65% of trans women were in some way or another just kind of like, that's fine, versus the much louder 35%. And so without research, it's good to hear those louder people, hear what people are saying, but you have to sort of take them with a grain of salt until you do the research. But they absolutely should inform the research. So as someone that is very science-minded, when you ask, well, what should we do if we don't have research? We should do research.
By the way, we've held Hannah for almost 50 minutes.
Are you okay on time?
I was just wandering around the city, like I do sometimes.
It's been a great talk.
It's been really great, actually. Yeah.
Cool.
So I was like, I'm bored. I want a hotter topic, and so Glad you came by.
We were about to move.
Transport. Oh, jeez.
Yeah, I guess my final question would be, if can't we just say, since we don't have the research, we should do more research, instead of saying we don't have the research, therefore we should rely on personal experience. Can't
So I'm not saying that.
Oh, okay.
I'm not saying that. I'm saying that we do need to do the research. The question for me would basically be, why are we so focused on this issue, given that we don't have that information yet, and the folks who are really pushing for trans women out of sports are certainly not saying, so we need to do research. They are saying that we don't need to do research because the answer is obvious.
I was going to take in the direction of number 18.
Yeah, go for it.
Do you have another one?
No, I think I'm pretty satisfied. Like,
I mean, I'd love to. This is a very broad topic. It absolutely
certainly is.
And I would love to kind of include one thing that I haven't talked about a huge amount.
Okay.
Which is, I've kind of mentioned skill over a number of things, but I want to point at one very specific skill as a fan of both men's and women's soccer. That is first touch. First touch on the ball. When you first get a ball, how good is your control on it on that first touch? And what I want to compare is not the best player on this team and this team, this men's team and this women's team. What I want to compare is the players on the bench. And I want to say that as someone, and this is self-experience, absolutely, in watching men's and women's soccer, that bench women's player has a much poorer first touch. As a sort of general thing, you know, where again, we're looking not at any specific, oh my God, this one was amazing, but rather, okay, they've done it 100 times. What was the general quality? And the reason I want to point at first touch is I want to ask, okay, what is the biological, like, X or Y chromosome gene that causes a man to be better at first touch? And the reason that I want to point at that is because I think that what it shows you is that there's much less support for young girls to play sports. There's much less encouragement for young girls to play sports. There's much less, say, existing schools that they can go through. And the way you get good at first touch is you start learning early. And so when we look at those professional leagues, what I think that shows, or at least could show, is, again, those differences in player pools. Because we're not talking about how good is it possible for them to be. It's how good is your average player at first touch. And I think that in general, if I'm looking at two teams that I am like huge fans of, Tottenham Hotspur and the Thorns, or just easier, Timbers and Thorns, side by side, neighbors.
Been to both.
By the
way.
Excellent,
Yep.
excellent.
Yeah.
I've been a season ticket holder for the Thorns since their second season. I missed the
yeah.
first. But
I bought my girlfriend a shirt that says, "Let's get thorny" on it. That's awesome. Yeah.
So as a huge fan of both teams, I also think that your bench players on the Timbers tend to have a better first touch. More consistent first touch than the bench players on the Thorns. And that's not because women are intrinsically worse. It's because that bell curve has fewer people.
They've been encouraged to train more, is what I'm hearing you say.
Basically, because it's skill.
And it's patriarchy.
And because they've been encouraged from cultural factors to train more.
18.
Or more of them have been encouraged and have had the resources and
so I'm going to ask a more meta question.
Absolutely.
Like bird's eye view, way zoomed out. And I have no dog necessarily in this fight. I'm just curious if it turns out Bob is correct. Just jump straight to the end. And that whatever this, think of like the worst case scenario of Bob being correct. in your mind for you, whether you would want it or to be true or not. I guess that is at the crux of this question. Would you want to know that Bob was correct about his view of the patriarchy? If hypothetically he happened to be.
If hypothetically Bob was correct that patriarchy was justified,
that the division of the sports and the way that
or that he's saying it's not as influence,
right? That the patriarchy doesn't have
as much
the same
influence,
impact,
yeah.
Gotcha,
as we might think. And I asked number 18 on everything I hear.
Oh, absolutely.
He's referring to a survey that.
Yeah, number 18 is about like. Yeah, it's about basically what I asked. Yeah,
yeah. No, absolutely.
Like wanting to know if you're mistaken, if you were mistaken, not saying that you are mistaken.
Sure.
Correct.
But would you want? What's more important to you, to know the truth of it?
If
it's always to know the truth of it.
Okay.
I am someone that very much wants to know what is true, even if it hurts.
Nice. Do you have any questions for us? That's a solid way to end it.
Yeah.
On the subject or just more general?
It could be anything. It could be anything because we talk about everything.
The idea is we've been asking all these questions, and we like to like to give you an opportunity to, if you want to ask questions.
Right.
Gotcha.
We both have channels. We both interview people in the park. He's just in town for a while, so we don't normally team up like this, actually.
Right.
Yeah.
It's normally just one-on-one, which is why if it seems like this is...
I almost like it more this way because it's helpful because sometimes my brain just goes blank.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, oh.
And sometimes I'll observe somebody else do it, and I'll be chomping at the bit like, gosh, I hope this question is asked.
Right.
I hope he asks this question.
And now you can.
And why not just do it?
Yeah.
And I mean, I worked enough in software. I'm disabled now, unfortunately, but I was a staff engineer. And I have been in a lot of situations like this where there was a lot of money involved. So it's pretty comfortable, as all things
Ain't that always the case in anything political, huh? Let me tell you. In this economy? God damn.
Basing our actions on research in this economy.
Right.
I guess my question for y'all would be, do you see patterns in what works poorly in this kind of conversation?
Facts. People that are attempting to be advocates, who do not have the most eager, willing, listening participant, which is almost impossible to find. Somebody who's just a blank slate, who's like, please tell me, explain everything. I'm just going to hear you out and do nothing and add nothing.
Mm-hmm.
That never happens, right? And so when two opposing forces, if they two come by and one is like, I think one way, and the other person's like, I think the exact opposite, and then they just shoot facts at one another. Mm-hmm. It almost never works to be persuasive if they're trying to persuade or trying to hear the other person out. So neither of them learn, and both of them lose. They're probably upset and probably don't want to talk to the next Bob that comes around because of the way Bob has been acting.
Sure.
Or been giving the facts or whatever.
I mean, I think that there's a very prevalent there is a very prevalent pattern, especially in social media conversation, that's very frustrating to me, which I think I see much more from the right, but I've also seen it from the left, which is the famous Gish Gallop.
Fact,
rebuttal.
Try to debunk that.
Yeah, fact, rebuttal. on to the next fact without rebutting the rebuttal,
Mm-hmm.
and the next time you're arguing with someone else, you're just going back to those same facts because you were not listening to the rebuttal.
Right.
When I am someone, if you couldn't tell, that's pretty willing to have a conversation.
Very much.
Yeah.
And
It took us a while
also,
to flag people down today.
And also-
you're a third, so.
Yeah.
and also someone that it is very difficult to insult.
That's awesome.
Because
Good attribute.
Yeah, it's great.
I mean, it's something that I say often. Like, I don't want to brag because it's trauma, but
Right.
I'm pretty good at taking criticism. I'm pretty hard to insult.
Mm.
In a large part because when I'm dealing with something like trans
Do you-
issues.
Let me challenge that. Let me push back on that a little. Not
Absolutely.
to make a judgment about you, but just to ask, do you think that you would be just as eager to listen to Bob if he was insulting versus not?
No.
You would probably listen more if he weren't.
Well, here's the thing. If someone is just trying to insult me, why is that worth my time?
So you probably wouldn't listen at all then to what Bob has to say.
I mean, if
If he was being
here's
a
the thing.
jackass.
I am very willing to be in a conversation where someone is making claims
Mhm.
that I might find insulting, that other trans women say would find insulting.
Mhm.
My only demand is that our conversation be in good faith.
Yeah.
And if someone, and usually someone who's just spewing insults, is not arguing in good faith, so why is that worth my time? It's not. So it's less about the insults and more about good faith. If someone isn't going to listen to me, why should I spend my time talking to them?
Yeah.
if their goal is not the same as your goal, maybe getting closer to truth,
Sharing information.
If the goal is to insult, yeah.
Well, did we answer your question? I can't even remember. Or were you
Yeah.
allowed to say something?
Well, you answered it. Your question was, what doesn't work in this situation?
Yeah.
You said providing facts, and I would piggyback on that by providing
It's probably
counter arguments.
Some footnotes to that, but yeah.
Yeah, providing counter arguments. That's not usually helpful, like in this context, I would
Sure.
say. So, yeah. But what I was going to ask, because I do need to take off,
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
and I appreciate your time.
Yeah.
I have one bonus question, and if you could name this process 1 to 3 words, just from your experience with it,
The experience of sitting
This
here talking.
interview
yeah,
sort of stuff.
and this kind of style, what would you name it?
I've never thought to ask that.
Ooh. So,
Because we have a
Here's
name
a
for it, but
thing.
it's a dumb name.
yeah, here's a problem.
Shit, an
The
acorn
disability
just
that took me out of being a staff engineer impacted my ability to find words for ideas.
fell right. Oh, really?
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
so wrong question.
So that is a very difficult
We'll ask the next
question.
person then. Well, how about this then? Well,
Here you go. I think for me it would be an honest conversation.
oh, okay, yeah,
Cool.
that works.
The reason why I asked this is because this is called street epistemology. And
I saw some sound epistemology.
this is my expression of street epistemology, the name of my channel, that kind of thing.
Are you interviewing people on the ferries?
There has been interviews on the ferry,
Gotcha.
but the ferry is a symbol of, like, epistemology is the method somebody uses to arrive at a conclusion. Like,
I'm
a
familiar.
ferry is
Yeah.
a method of arriving at a destination. I'm interested in how solid your ferry is to
Gotcha.
your own standards.
Gotcha.
And whenever we say street epistemology, sometimes it's kind of confusing, and so I'm looking for ways to explain it to people who don't know what it is.
Honest conversation's pretty decent.
That resonates better with people who don't know what epistemology is, or
It's just so
that
tough
kind of thing.
because epistemology is so exactly what it is that we are
I know.
dealing with.
Yeah,
It's just that
It's
it's not a
accurate.
common word.
it's accurate.
Yeah.
It's just not resonating with.
It's too many
you know,
goddamn
most people.
syllables.
Yeah. I mean, You know, it might be like a, okay, but why?
Yeah. I like honest conversation though. That like
Yeah.
so it helps me explain it to other people, like
Or a deep conversation.
conversations.
Because what it sounds like, is you're really trying to drill down into the origins of why people think what they think.
Yeah.
Which I love. I appreciate that.
Cool.
Yeah. Oh, and another last thing. There are other people that do this, and I cannot speak for all of them, and we all very much think very differently. Especially, and this is one of the topics that's probably most divisive within our own communities. Yeah. But I think we handled this one well.
The trans
Oh,
topic.
The just
Yeah, gotcha.
well, trans sports specifically.
Yeah. more
Yeah, I would
specifically.
imagine
Even more
that.
specifically, yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
And
Yeah.
I think something there, like I was saying about in the trans community, oh, you know, why is this the thing we want to focus on? I look at that more broadly as women's sports, and I look at the problems of the world, and my question is, why is some high school girls coming in second rather than first the priority versus...
Yeah. 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 I've asked that question of people, like, does the amount of people that this affects warrant the amount of attention this topic gets?
that's a great question.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.